Good morning. Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Claudia with Claudia's Door Decor, and joining me is Kim of Kimber-Lee Designs. Good morning.
Good morning, Claudia. How are
Go
you?
ahead and introduce yourself and let us know where you are located and where people can find you.
My name is Kimberly Miller, and I am located in a very small town in Ohio, Albany, Ohio. It's in the very southern edge of Ohio, so it's actually southeast Ohio.
So, what are you close to? What other state are you close to?
So I can be in West Virginia in about 45 minutes. So I'm
Nice.
closest to West Virginia.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yes.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit. Let's just touch like surface level, a little bit about your family.
Oh, okay. My parents are still married, are still together. They've been together for, see, 45 or 46 years, 46 years, I think. Um, and then there's me and my husband. His name is Mike. He's an electrician. And we have two children, Mackenzie and Alex. Mackenzie is a mommy, and she is doing online schooling right now for drug and alcohol counseling. And she photographs newborn babies at our local hospital. And my son Alex is a United States Marine.
I mean, so many different factors to your family dynamic. Now, I'm assuming because I know how old you are that you're the oldest in your family.
I am the middle child.
You're the middle. Okay, so you have an older sibling. How many children are in your family?
Okay, so there's my older sister, and I have a younger sister.
Okay, so all girls.
All girls. My dad had three girls, bless his heart.
I know. I was going to say, Dad knows estrogen very well.
Yeah.
All right, so I
Horrible.
met you here on this platform on TikTok. So let's talk a little bit about how you first got onto TikTok and started watching people and then found the wreath community.
It was right around Christmas time, and I remember my daughter was talking about TikTok, and I'm like, what's TikTok? And so she showed me, and I got on there. And at the beginning, they ask you, like, what are you interested in? And of course, I put in, I think, crafts or something like that. And I started watching a lot of DIY things, like mainly Christmas things you could make, like DIYs on a budget. And from there, it kind of led me to wreath makers. And so that's how I got introduced to that community.
Was it Christmas of this past year?
No, no, no. This was Christmas, like, I want to say 2 years ago.
Okay, so more 2022.
Or maybe it was 2021, the end of 2021, maybe.
Okay,
So, yeah.
fair enough. So she starts watching TikTok wreath makers. And
Yes.
you just dived right into the conversation, didn't you? When you chatted it up, whenever you saw somebody making wreaths, you went ahead and started talking and chatting.
Afraid not. I was a silent watcher for probably a year.
Yeah.
I just kind of watched and learned, but that's my personality. I'm more of like a watch and learn kind of person. I'm an introvert, definitely. So, I would read the comments, and keep up with the comments and what was going on, but I was like, I don't think I need to comment because like this person doesn't know me and they're going to be like, who is this chick that's making this comment? I guess I just didn't realize that they don't know anybody who is on their lives. Not anybody, but for the most part, they don't know
No,
these people.
they're strangers. They're just people
Yeah.
just popping in and out having conversation. The other Kim in our chat said, that's me. I'm a silent watcher too. And there are several silent watchers. But it floored me when you and I had the behind the scenes conversation prior to this. And you shared with me that you have spent a year basically in the community, but incognito.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I,
So
I tell you.
how would you encourage somebody who is a silent watcher to go ahead and when you connect with a creator, say hello?
Yeah, I wish I would have done it a year ago because I mean, literally in the few short months that I have been commenting, I have made so many friends in the Wreath community. Like people know who I am. They don't know me like face to face, but they know my name. And so yeah, I wish I would have done it a long time ago. I would just say, just do it. Even if you just ask a question, say, "Hey, how are you?" First
How
time.
nice is it to be welcome, though? How nice is it to go into a creator's live and people recognize you because that's what it is. People recognize the names that are coming in and they can greet you and say hello.
It's
And
so nice. It
there are
feels
people that
like,
are doing the same thing you like to do.
yeah, it's like a friend. Like, "Hey, how are you?"
Yep.
Um, and it's a great community. Everybody, for the most part, is so welcoming. And as long as you're in their live and giving them feedback and hitting the like and all the things that you should do to support each other, then it's great.
Well, here's the thing, okay? Because there's a vast difference. There's a vast difference in what you feel when you're watching a live when the person is basically anonymous to you,
Right.
right? I mean, you don't know them, but as you start traveling, and I call it traveling down Reef Boulevard, as you start traveling and seeing the same people pretty much daily, because we're on here all the time, the difference between not knowing anybody because you chose to be a silent watcher because that's what was comfortable to you.
Yes.
Okay, but now how does it feel? Do you feel like people are going to miss me if I'm not there?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, certain people, like I love, when I come into your live and you're like, "Hey, friend," or I go into Justin's live and he's like, "Kimber, hey, girl, how are you?" It's the best feeling ever. It's like, wow, these people accept me and I'm part of this community now.
Well, it's acceptance in the sense that you're familiar
Yeah,
and we enjoy your company and we know that time is valuable and you're choosing to spend time with us when you're joining us in our live. And that's the biggest gift you can give anybody. And I think Misty from Little Luxuries says that every single time she's live. She's like, time is valuable and you're choosing to spend your time with me, and that means a lot. So
exactly.
it's huge. No more anonymous silent watching people.
Yeah.
Say
Don't be an
hello.
influencer.
Say
Say
hello.
hello.
All right. So you go from hanging out in the rafters to dropping down into the chat, getting familiar with the community, finding out you need 1,000 followers on TikTok in order to go live so that you can start, promoting your business. How long did it take you to get your 1,000 followers once you really focused on it?
2 weeks. Oh, 2 weeks.
Um, she said 2 weeks, folks. 2 weeks.
And that wasn't like constantly through the day. That was like after I got home from work in the evening, going into somebody's live.
How would you do it?
So I would go into people's lives and um, I would just the people that were commenting, I would click on their name and I would hit follow. And 9 times out of 10, they would follow me back. So I would do that like once a day for 2 weeks, and it was like nothing. I got to 1,000 followers.
And if nothing else, when you're hitting follow with people that are watching the same things you do, you have a bunch of people that are also get to see what they do as far as their reads, the videos they're posting, all the things.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you would recommend that method. You would recommend follow people that are watching the same things you are watching.
Yes. I recommend it worked for me. 2 weeks.
See? 2 weeks. All
Yes.
right. So how long did it take you to realize or learn that when a creator goes live and you're full of all these questions about what they're doing, how they're doing it, how long before you realize that most of the creators have already taken the time to link the things that they use and the items that they work with in their profile link? How long did it take you to figure that out, that all you have to do is go there and you can see all the stuff?
Not long. I mean, literally, I think the first live I probably ever watched, they were like, they explained, like, go up to the top of this page and click my name, and it will take you to the link tree. And I was like, I'm going to try that, because I'm a trier.
Right.
So, and yeah, it didn't take long at all.
Yeah, I call it button pushing, and I know that's a connotative, like that's a word. It's like, don't push my buttons, but I do try things when I'm told to do them. I'm just like, okay, what does this do? A lot of times I don't get myself in trouble. I'm not going to say never, but sometimes I do. But for the most part, just click the button. It'll help. It'll absolutely help. So, did you start getting, okay, so let me back up. When you first start making wreaths, right? When you start making wreaths and you don't know where to get your material, the logical place, because we see it there, would be where?
So Joann's, and I don't even think I knew about Hobby Lobby when I first started. So Joann's, the Dollar Tree,
Right.
you find stuff at the Dollar Tree. But it was through looking at people's links that I found my favorite place to shop, which is the wreath shop. And when I went on there, I could not believe the prices, because I'm like, okay, so I paid more for that ribbon here. And when I got my first order, I couldn't believe the quality also.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is like great ribbon. I did go on Amazon as well,
I hear
and
you.
order ribbon, which was like, it was like $10 a roll, and I have it still. And then when I went on the wreath shop, I found the same ribbon for like five something, and I was like, okay. So yeah, Amazon, and then your local places.
But you know that I preach it. You don't know what you don't know,
Exactly.
right? And a lot of us flounder at the beginning, not, trying to figure everything out, trying to learn by watching, but there's just those finite details, those little details that if we had that information, it would help us and save us so much money.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So you said that your first wreath wasn't great.
No, it was I would consider it terrible. Um just because I think it was like Joanne mesh, and probably Joanne ribbon, and it didn't have an attachment, it didn't have a sign, like it was just very, probably Dollar Tree florals went on it. So it was just very, very basic. And it was actually a wireframe. Which when I was doing the wireframe, I liked the wireframe. But once I found the evergreen base, I was like, okay, this is what I really, really like.
Right. So you went like wireframes, having to do the pipe cleaner thing, having to do the tie thing. That's not for me. And then you moved on to evergreens, and that's when you feel you found your the love of your designs. That's what you make on. But you also like grapevines.
I like grapevines. I'm not the greatest at grapevines. I haven't made a whole lot of them. So that is really kind of new to me, and I don't know all the tricks of the trade with grapevines. But the evergreen, actually, it was Kayla with Sweet Girl Design Co. She is the first person who was like, I saw making on an evergreen, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that looks amazing. So,
So that's when you're like, I can do that. That looks a lot more my style. Now,
yeah,
mind you, it's not everybody's style.
no,
And have you learned when the best time to buy them is? The evergreen bases?
Christmas.
Yep, right after Christmas.
Yep, and I am kicking myself because I did not buy nearly enough. So,
But remember, this is all part of learning.
Right.
And come next season, guess what you're going to do? You're going to have the budget to know that you need to jump on those after Christmas sales.
Right. I need to buy like 200 of them instead of, I think the like 40 I bought this year or 50, I forget what it was. But I'm already thinking in my mind, like, what am I going to do? Because I'm going to run out at some point. I'm going to run out.
Well, here's the
So,
thing, okay? Grapevines are available.
yes,
So maybe this could be the season that you start to learn and grow your expertise with grapevines,
right.
you know? So,
Or the wireframe.
but remember, July is when we start Christmas again. You do realize that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, I know there's
July,
Christmas in July, but I didn't know like if stores
that's
start
why. That's
selling.
why we start designing in July for Christmas. So you're not too far from starting to design again for Christmas. So just keep that in mind so that, yeah, so the Christmas and July sales. Yeah. So just so you have in mind that I really need to hold on to some of these evergreens that I have because I need to start designing for Christmas soon. So listen to your friend.
Yes, yes.
All right. So now you're making all of these wreaths. At what point did you say, I can't keep all of these in my house and I can't depend on local sales?
Oh, that happened pretty quick. It didn't take long.
Yeah.
Because my craft room is actually just our spare bedroom, and you can only put so many nails in the wall. Do you know what I mean?
I
Or
do.
there's only so much space in here to hang wreaths. So
Right.
yeah, it happens very, very quick. Especially if you're very creative and you're like, you make a wreath, and you're like, I love that. What else can I make? So you just kind of go and go.
So
So you
you
can.
decided to put your items where?
Okay, so we have in my local mall in Athens, Ohio, there is a place called the Peddler's Junction, and it's all booths in there. So it's like, and there's like candle wax, and there's really old stuff, like collectibles and
Like antiques?
antiques, and there's tumblers, and there's people who make wood stuff. And so I went in and just kind of inquired, like, okay, how much is it to rent a booth? And how much space do I need? So I ended up getting an 8 by 10 booth. And I've only had it open since January. So,
January of this year.
yes, since
Okay.
January of this year. So only a couple months.
Mhm.
The first month, it did not pay for itself. But the second month it did.
Okay.
So I'm still kind of in the like wait and see phase of it. But I really like that it's a great place to store my wreaths because they're really
But other people, but people are seeing them. They're seeing what you have to offer. They might not be like in the shopping space for a wreath at that time, but when they are, they know where to go.
exactly.
And that makes a difference too. So, have you decided how long you're going to give it? Like, how long are you going to stay in this venture? Because remember, like I said, July starts the Christmas shopping in July because you can always run a sale in your booth and get sales that way.
I really want to give it a good 6 months so I can
Okay.
have kind of so you can make a little chart like what months were better sales, what were not great sales. January were not great sales, but January is the month after Christmas. So I kind of get that. Like people are paying off their Christmas debts. So they're not, for the most part.
True. That's very true. And not only that, but you know, January is also cold. It's
Yes,
also very dark. I mean, January, unfortunately, even though it's my birth month, is a very sad month. It's just very gloomy. People tend to hunker down and, stay indoors and stuff like that. But I'm so thrilled that you're doing the boutique because, like you said, it's somewhere to put the items that you make so that you can keep creating. And I think you mentioned to me that recently that you really need to go you need to go put your, basically freshen up your booth with items.
I do, and I have quite a few already that's in here that I need to take and put in there.
Now,
So
what's currently in your booth? Like what season or styles right now are in your booth?
I have a little bit of everything. I have a ladybug wreath. I have Easter. I have every day. Um, I don't have any Fourth of July, so that's one thing that I need to go stock in there. I have quite a few every day. I still have some Valentine that are in there that I need to take out and probably switch with something else.
Yeah.
And I
Because
have a
it's
bead.
valuable real estate. It's valuable real estate that you have going on there. Now, you recently decided that you were going to venture into the online sales.
Yes.
How's that process been?
It's definitely been a learning process because I mean, I knew of Etsy, but I had never had anything in Etsy. So it's been a learning process because it's not just like, okay, I'm going to take a picture of something and put it in Etsy. You know, you want a good background. You want to, as far as your Etsy shop, you want to make sure that it looks pretty when people visit it, that your banner is nice. And mine is still a work in progress, so it's nowhere near perfect. But, you know, there's keywords that you need to put in your listings, and there's just a lot of things, a lot of different things that goes into listing stuff on Etsy.
Did you know how complicated, or how, excuse me, not complicated because it does get easier, but how involved it is? Did you have any clue at how involved it was to open an Etsy?
No, I was not expecting that. And you know, they say like to get sales for them to drive sales to your Etsy. They want videos and they want pictures a certain way, and you need to be in Etsy every day and doing something, changing something in your Etsy or updating. So that's definitely been a learning curve because I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had the time every day to be in my Etsy shop because I do have a full-time job, and I have a children and a grandchild, and you know, so
And
so
she does have a husband. He's
and a
in there.
husband and a husband. We listen, we work so well, my husband and I together because you know, we both have hobbies that we're very passionate about. So he's not mad when I'm in my craft room. I'm not mad when he's in the basement with all of his RC cars, or he's outside running them around our property, or you know what I mean? So it really, really works great for us.
That's awesome. And I love that you support each other that way because even though you're married, and how long have you been married?
So we have been together for 26 years, married for
Wow.
24.
Wow. See, and that's the thing. Over the years, we change, guys, as individuals. And if we don't have our own thing as individuals, that can be difficult in a relationship. So I'm thrilled that you have your thing and he's got his thing, which is amazing. Okay, so after figuring out, hey, I'm going to go ahead and go the online route.
Mhm.
How long before you figured out that if I'm going to have an online business, people need to see me online?
That didn't take long, and you actually helped me with that journey so much because when I found, I can talk about our Discord group, right?
You can.
Okay. I just want to make sure. So when I found Claudia and she was talking about Discord and this community that she wanted to build, I was like, oh my God, like that would be amazing. So I joined, and I have learned so much through our community with Claudia and Grace and everybody. We all support each other, and I can put a wreath on and say, hey guys, what does this wreath need? Like, I can't figure out what it's missing. And everybody can give their opinion and, like, hey, I think you need more florals here or one less bow there. Um, Etsy help, technology help. I mean, we have a prayer chain, everything that you can think of, we have a link to. Help with the link tree, help with anything. So
Well,
it,
here's the thing.
it's
Here's
wonderful.
the benefit of that, and I know that you're going to agree. It's in the palm of your hand. You don't have to think it out or think through it. If you have a question, just ask. And
Yeah,
somebody will either know the answer or point you in the right direction.
exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
what this community does. For those that don't know, it's a subscription through my TikTok to join Discord, and we welcome any creatives that are taking the journey to small business. And it's it's not coaching, it's more of we're mentoring each other and helping each other along the way. So you may be at step 1 where somebody might be at step 15 and can help you with your step 1. So that is what we've created here on through TikTok. So Discord is now helping you. The community is now helping you. You don't feel alone anymore.
No, I
You
don't.
don't feel lost with the terms that are used, the things people say. You now know what sales tax and use certificate means.
Yes, yes. And like, there's just so many people, it's so much support and information. I'm so grateful that I found you and I found the group. It's helped me tremendously. I got my business license because of our group.
I'm so excited. So Discord is helping you. It's basically keeping you accountable to your goals,
Yes.
right? It's keeping you accountable. You're not alone. And now you're going live. How's that process been for you, going live on TikTok?
So, uh, okay, truth time. So my very first live, I think it was I was telling Claudia, I think it was only like 20 minutes long. I don't even know. But I think I just did like a small unboxing and I was so nervous that literally at 20 minutes I just kind of looked at the camera and I was like, I think that's all my nerves can handle for right now. I'll see you guys later. And that was it. My next live was a little bit easier, but y'all, I have cut myself twice on two different lives with my mesh cutter. Like, have to go get a band-aid. Sorry, I'm bleeding everywhere. I mean, it was a hot mess. But my last couple lives have been great. I ordered a ring light. I kind of Discord helped me figure out my setup and how my lighting is best and what angle is best for my lives. So they have gotten so much better. And some of you were probably in my lives where I cut myself. Yeah.
So Cricket says she remembers your first live. Let me ask you this though. Did you tell anybody you were going live?
No, for that first one, no, 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 I don't think so.
No, you didn't. And I think that you have said that now you understand. You understand what it's like to be on this side of the camera and how important it is to engage with the creator.
Exactly, because if nobody's engaging with you, you just talk a lot and you talk a lot about everything and nothing and probably things that you absolutely do not need to share with people. Um, as Claudia calls it, oversharing. So, yeah,
We
so
do it.
it's
We
very easy to fall down that rabbit hole of oversharing because you don't want to hear yourself. Like, so I started playing music. That's one thing after my first couple of lives, I incorporated because at least if nobody was engaging, I could listen to the music and not feel so much like I needed to like talk, talk, talk. Even though, I mean, I love when people engage with me. Like, that's the greatest.
Do you ever go back and rewatch your live and critique yourself?
I did the first, I did the first two or three. I went back and, I was like, well, that angle's not the greatest. Like, the lighting's not the greatest. I could tell I was very nervous. I don't like to look at myself on camera. Does anybody like to watch themselves? Like, so
I
that
mean,
was,
yeah, there are people that like to watch themselves. You know them.
yeah, yeah. There are some people who like to watch, but I am not one of those people. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, good Lord, look at the wrinkles and look how old I look. And, you're the hardest on yourself.
Well, you're
So,
super self-aware that you're on camera. That's
yes,
part of it, right?
yes.
And for me, every time I get off live, except for Real Talk, I don't know what it is, but anytime I'm creating on Real Talk, I get off of there and I'm like, ah, I can breathe now. I get so hot. I get so incredibly hot. But when I'm doing Real Talk and just sitting here across the screen with another person having a conversation, this is my jam. I can do this all day long.
Like, yes.
Yeah, I can do this all day long. It's so funny. So let's talk more about your more recent lives when you actually let people know that you were going live.
Big difference. For one, my community, and I say that my community that I love, they come in and at least drop in and say, "Hey," so you have a lot more interaction when you send out like, "Hey, I'm going live." So that's been a big difference.
Well, not letting anybody know that you're going live, I mean, we're not aware, but when
Exactly.
you let us know, and if we have time, we are definitely going to jump in, cheer you on, tap that screen, share the live, even if we can't stay. Because, guys, doing this on the screen, and by the way, you can do it really fast, just really close to the screen, and the hearts start jumping, fills up that little number with the heart next to it on the people's lives. That number gets filled up, which is telling TikTok people are enjoying this person's interaction, their live is good. And then that little arrow down at the bottom, that little arrow that you share out brings up everybody you follow. Everybody that has that little green dot on their logo, that green dot says those people are online right now. So when you're sharing somebody out, it helps TikTok know saying this person's getting engagement. So that's how you support another creator, right? Because I don't expect Kim to come into my live and be like, "Oh my gosh, I love what you're making. I'm going to buy that." I don't expect that. That's silly. She makes the stuff that I make. But this is the way that we get out onto people's scrolling feed, the FYP, the For You page, so that we can get customers to come and watch us make what we make and get that kind of engagement. It will happen, friend. Don't you worry. It will happen. It's just a process.
It is a process, and once you know how important that is, that while you're in somebody's live that you tap the screen, I find myself when I'm in somebody's live, I'll tap that screen 2,000 times while I'm in there just because I know that that's helping them.
But it's automatic. Have you noticed that it's become habit? Like, I
Yeah.
feel weird not tapping the screen while watching somebody. I'm like, no, this is, and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is what I do. This is how I go on here. And I just tap the screen. And nothing of mine gets numb and none of my fingers hurt. So I really need to do a lesson on this. I really need to teach you guys lightly tap. If you barely move your finger right over the screen, even if it's like the head or just make it fun, just tap on the person. It actually goes faster and it benefits the creator. So help the community out. If you like watching somebody, support them. Support them. Okay, so now you're part of this Wreath community. People are recognizing you. You're excited to be doing what you're doing now, right? I mean, it just elevates that excitement,
So exciting.
right? So it makes you look forward to it. And it doesn't feel like a job.
No, because this is like something that I love. You know, when you're very passionate about something and it's something you love, it should never feel like a job.
Nope. You should have seen how long it took me to get her to send me a picture. That's how much this woman does not like looking at herself.
This woman does not like it at all.
All right, so we're talking about going live, doing your business, doing all the things, right? And doing something that you're passionate about and diving in full force. Where do you go to learn new techniques? Like, what do you do to go learn something different or something new?
YouTube.
She's
Uh,
like, YouTube University, don't you know?
YouTube University. Um, I find that like the more, every live you go into, I feel like you learn something new, even if it's just something small. So I learn a lot from other creators. I go to YouTube, even Facebook, because there are some creators, a lot of creators on Facebook. So those are like my three main places that I look.
Have you taken any classes?
I have not
Okay.
taken any classes.
Okay. But
Um,
you're not
it's
opposed
something.
to it.
No,
If
no,
a
no.
virtual class were to come up with a creator that you enjoy, you would take that class.
Absolutely. No, I'm not opposed to. I just have not done that yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We talk about this a lot in our Discord community about take your time. Don't be in a rush. You are on your own journey at your own pace. Just because this person's doing blank, blank, blank does not mean that you need to be doing those things.
Right.
Because if you're not doing your own thing at your own pace, you can make everything crumble and get into a position where you can't. Could you imagine if you're running literally side by side with somebody and your legs aren't as long and this other person is like running like this and you're trying to keep up, that person is not going to be out of breath, falling on the floor, feeling like their heart's pounding out of their chest, like they could literally unalive because you're not running the right race. You're not running the right race. Run your own race at your pace. It's important.
I agree. So yes, down the road, I do want to take classes. So, and right now it's like, financially, I've got the booth going. I've got, like when you have a lot of things going, you're like, okay, so I have to pace myself and I have to, for this moment, decide what's more important.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, you as a brand new gung ho gonna make this a business, the how do you do this question list is a lot longer than the why. The why is because I love it, but the how list, how do I do this? How do I take this from local, I love to craft, to now I want to do something real with this? It's a lot of work.
It's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time.
Mhm.
And you definitely need a lot of support and people who you can ask questions. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
I got a tickle, and you watch. It's going
It
to just.
happens to me. It's perfectly fine, and it literally always happens to me when I'm live.
I know, right? When you're like, don't do this right now. Don't.
And I think it's because we try to fight it so that it gets perpetually worse. So it's fine. It's perfectly, perfectly fine. All right. So it's hard, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. I'm
It's a lot of work, but you do the work.
exactly.
The steps, although small, make huge impact. So
Mhm.
Kim got her business license. We actually had three people in our group get their business licenses. We've been on Discord 6 weeks. We have 3 people that have gotten their business license, one person who's gone full time. Okay. So things are happening, but I promise you, having that support is what's gotten these people to where they're at.
Right, because I think we've talked about this, going on somebody's live and saying, "Hey, how did you get your business license?" Like, that's not the time or the place to ask those questions. So somebody brand new starting out, you don't know where to find the answers. So it's very difficult unless you have support from somebody, a mentor, somebody somewhere who says, "Hey, come and join us and we'll talk about all these things and we'll teach you what you need to know." So that is what Discord has done for me.
But we also keep each other accountable because you need to be accountable to the goals that you're trying to do because it is a lot of work. And if you're not sharing your goals or having somebody help you stay accountable to those goals, sometimes it just life gets in the way.
Exactly. Exactly. It's easy to say, "Oh, you know what? I was so busy today. I'll do that tomorrow." And then you put it off till tomorrow, 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 and then a month passes and you haven't done it. So, it's nice having somebody, kind of nudge you along, like, just be accountable to yourself as well. Because a lot of times as moms, our needs are always last. We usually push what we want to the back burner because we think of everybody else. So,
And that's true for anybody that is trying to do something from the ground up. We talk about this. We are building a business. So we have to think of every step as another brick, right? But
exactly.
if you don't use cement with those bricks to keep it together, it's just going to be a pile of rock that you're building.
It's going to fall.
So, so I see our group as a cement. We are the cement that help you cement those goals and cement the stuff that you're trying to do. And we celebrate, gosh, we celebrate big because it is a big deal. Every small step is a big deal. Okay, so the reason most of us started um, making race is because we're crafty. You shared, you're a crafty person.
Yes,
You saw somebody making something, you're like, I can do that.
exactly.
Okay. But there's another factor to that. When we're in our craft rooms, we're healing ourselves. Okay. It's therapeutic to work with your hands. And that's scientifically been proven that working with your hands is very good for your mental health. Can you talk a little bit about that? About how crafting is so good for you?
Um, so do you just want me to dive right into my
Nope, nope, not that part yet.
okay.
Just the yes.
So, yeah, crafting for me is something that I can completely lose myself in. I'm not thinking about all the things that are stressing me out, all of my worries. I'm just focused on what I'm doing and I'm loving when I'm doing it. And, it's quiet back here unless I have music on, so it's a place where I can just really tune in to what I'm doing and not think about anything else.
You know, I've thought about this because a lot of my childhood was based on things being out of control. So I tried to take control of things. And of course, that causes a coping mechanism that's not necessarily healthy. I mean, the word control freak has been has been shared with me. But at the same time, it's like the chaos is so grand and so big that if I can just control this, I'll be okay. And when I'm creating whatever it is that I'm creating, I'm kind of controlling this, right?
Yes, I'm the same way. You know, trauma is weird that way that, when you have trauma and things are out of your control, it's very easy when you become an adult to fall into that mindset like I'm going to control everything about my life. You know, nobody is going to control anything. So yes, I'm a bit of a control freak also, and a little OCD. So, but it's okay. I've learned to recognize it and to accept it, and I work on that. I every day I work on not trying to control everything my children do, or do you know what I mean? Because when you are a control freak, like you're all up in their business. You know, you gotta know it all, and you're giving them your advice, and you need to do this. So it's a process. It's a work in progress.
Totally a process. Totally a process. And my child, my youngest, actually said to me, Mom, you're a better mom since you started your business. Because I'm not trying to be all up in my adult children's business. I have my own business to be all up in. But I understand it. I understand it. And I've had to apologize to my children and been like, you know what? It doesn't excuse it. It doesn't excuse it. I did the best that I could, but man, I was all up in your business.
Exactly. Yep.
And self-awareness is part of that, I think,
Yeah.
right? Self-awareness. And the reason why we're stepping into this and not diving in is because Kim has a very redemptive story to share. And it is a very, it touches on a lot of things that might be triggers for people. And I say that to say that we don't want anybody to feel some kind of way because of what she's sharing, but understand that we feel that this is a very important story, a very hopeful story, and a story that she has gotten permission to share. So we're going to dive back a little bit. We're going to go back a little bit with Kim, and she's going to talk about something that's very near and dear to her heart. It involves her family and her mental health. So please be respectful during this time and understand that this will pull at your heartstrings. Kim, let's go ahead and share a little bit of your journey with your daughter.
Okay, so and I'm gonna try to get through this without crying. So fingers.
Don't rush. Don't rush. I'd rather you pause and gather yourself and continue, but don't rush it. It's an important story, okay?
It very much is. And so I guess I'll start by saying that, you know, when I was growing up, I think the worst thing I ever heard about was um, marijuana. Can I say that on here? So my experience with drugs was very little. I didn't know anything about anything, basically. Um, so when my daughter was 18, and I did, you know, me and her discuss what I could share and what I couldn't. So when she's a very open book, you know, if you have seen her Facebook page, you know that she is very open with her journey as well. So when she was 18, she became pregnant, and I was not super happy about it, but she was an adult, so what could I do? And she ended up having, I'm not going to call it a miscarriage because her body didn't miscarry the baby, and that was a whole process. And I didn't know at the time how deeply that affected her and how much trauma that was for her. And I thought she was, you know, getting over it, but I was wrong, very wrong. And I started to see a decline in her. Like she would start a job and then she would quit it, and she was not home a lot, and she was very irresponsible and just kind of very all over the place. And it was like before I knew it, like I'm noticing these changes in her, and then bam, like I'm noticing big changes in her. Like she's selling all of her stuff and she's hanging around with people that I don't approve of. I'm like, who are these people? So it took very, very little time. And I'm going to tell you that if you think, because I was one of those parents, we have such a loving family. She has so many people that love her. She's the only granddaughter, so she was very spoiled, and like with love and attention. And I was one of those parents who I thought, nothing like that will ever happen to my kids. Like we've got a good family here. But it took very little time once she got around this crowd, and with her, I think, depression and trauma, that she became addicted to heroin. And it took me about 6 months to realize that, okay, something major is happening here. And by the time I realized it, it was too late. Like she was so just full blown into an addiction.
Let me pause
And
right there
yeah.
because I know this is a question many people ask.
Mhm.
Was she living in your home at the time?
No, she was in and out.
So did you see her every day?
I didn't see her every day, but it was like every time I saw her, she looked worse, if that makes sense. Like something was changing.
Because I know that people think that, oh, I would totally be able to tell. You really can't.
You
Unless you know what you're looking for. Unless you actually know what you're looking for, you can't tell. So go on.
exactly.
Yeah.
There were signs, and my husband kept saying, like, babe, there's something's going on with her. Something's wrong. And I'm like, no, she's just sad right now, and she's going through something, but she'll be okay. And I mean, as a mom, looking back, I in the beginning I beat myself up so badly for not seeing the signs and not taking action long before I did. But like I said, once it really sank in, like something's wrong, she was already so far gone. And when I say she was so far gone, I mean literally she was living out of a backpack, and she was living on people's couches. She was living in houses with no running water and no electricity. And she got down to about, and my daughter's 5'10", she's very tall, to about 95 pounds, I think. So she had track marks on her every time I saw her, and like she didn't care. And I would say to her, Mackenzie, like, look at your hands. Like, like, wash your hands. What is wrong with you? But you have to understand, when people are going through it, when they're in the midst of addiction, they are not thinking with the logical part of their brain anymore. And I've talked to Claudia about this a little bit, but so they're not thinking in their frontal lobe anymore. There's a different part of their brain that's like right here in the middle that takes over. Um, and
It's
all
almost
they
like
think
an
about,
impulse. They don't think it's an impulse.
no, and all they want, their goal is to, how am I going to get this drug today? What am I going to do to get this? Because the fear of withdrawal is so overwhelming that they can't deal with that thought. So their whole goal every day, all day, is how am I going to get this? And so this went on for about a year and a half. And I can't I can't tell you what it does to watch somebody who is so beautiful. And my people used to stop us in the store and ask me if my daughter, like, is that your daughter? Is she a model? like just to watch your beautiful, healthy child turn into something and someone that you don't even know. She was not my daughter anymore. She became just very secretive and manipulative, very manipulative because she always wanted money. I need money, I need money, I need money. And would do anything to get it, like lie, cheat, steal. That's how it is. And so it got to the point where I had to tell her, like, you can't come home anymore. Because when she did come, she would try to do drugs in our home. And and my son was still living at home, and I just said, I can't have that. I can't have that around him. And there were so many times where I would beg her, I would plead, please, please let me get you into rehab. Please go to rehab. And at times she would relent and say, okay, mom, okay, I'll go. And I would get her booked to go, and she would sneak out in the middle of the night. And of course, I would have my hopes up, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be this is going to be the day where this is going to change. It's going to turn around. And when I tell you it's hard on the whole family, I mean, our family was absolutely devastated during this time because we all loved her so much, and I couldn't understand it. And probably to this day, I still don't really understand it. I just don't understand how somebody with their whole life ahead of them, beautiful, smart, tall, intelligent, could go from that to living in the streets with a backpack. Do you know what I
It
mean? Like,
starts with coping. It starts with doing anything you can do to not hurt the way she was hurting, but not knowing how deep that part was.
yes,
This is what she did to cope with that time. It's just a dangerous, slippery slope.
yes. And the people that she started hanging out with. I mean, it only takes, one bad apple to ruin the bunch. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not going to blame it on those people, but because she had to take responsibility, and she has. But so I remember one very, very hard day. I woke up and I was getting ready for work, and I noticed the basement light was on, and so I walked downstairs, and my daughter was in the basement laying on the couch, and she was holding her head, and she was saying, "Oh mom, like my head hurts so bad." And this was towards the end. And I remember saying, like, I'm taking you to the hospital. Like, I got ready. I called off work. I got to the hospital, and she got out of the car and walked the opposite way and said, I'm not going. And come to find out, she had actually had an aneurysm that morning. Um,
A brain
yes,
aneurysm?
yes. So not long after that, I noticed her feet and her legs started swelling a lot. And I kept saying, Mackenzie, there's something wrong with you, honey. You have got to get clean. Like there's something wrong. So with the help of I'll try to shorten this a little bit. With the
No,
help
no,
of
you're fine. You literally have an hour. Do not rush. I told you that.
okay, because
This is your time, your story.
it's a
Okay?
very detailed event. I mean, this is 2.5 years, that
Mhm.
of the sleepless nights, of the worries, of getting to where I would take her food, but I wouldn't give her money anymore. And that was the only time I got to see her was when I took her food. My husband and I both took turns. Like, she loved milkshakes, and so my husband would take her milkshakes, and I would take her food. But every time I saw her, she just progressively got worse. I mean, skinnier. Her hair was thinning, and her legs were swelled. So I had talked to my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, and I owe my sister-in-law just a debt of gratitude forever because she helped me get my daughter into rehab. So my daughter finally agreed when I think it finally clicked for my daughter, like something's wrong with me, my health is declining, something's really wrong. So she finally agreed. And so my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law took her an hour away from here to their home and kept her there for I think it was 10 days we had to wait to get her into rehab.
Now, is this wasn't the hospital stay though?
No,
Okay.
this is before the hospital.
Okay.
So my mother-in-law that day took her to rehab, and a great rehab, and dropped her off. And for the first, few days, of course, we couldn't talk to her because she was detoxing. They call it detoxing. And so when I finally got to talk to her, it took about a week, but she sounded much clearer, like much more like my daughter. But after that week, they noticed that her health was declining even more. And so they ended up taking her to the local hospital. And I got the phone call, and she said, "Mom, I'm in the hospital. I need you to come." And so then I was like, "What's wrong?" And she was like, "I don't know, but I just need you to get here." So I immediately called my husband and my mother-in-law. And let me tell you, I have the greatest mother-in-law ever. Like, she was 100% with me through this entire journey, and my mom as well. But my mother-in-law would stay in the hospital with my daughter when I couldn't. So I called my mother-in-law, and we all drive up to the hospital, and we walk in the room. And of course, my mother-in-law's an RN, so you have to remember she's looking at things, and I'm watching the expression on her face because I still don't know what's happening. And I don't like the way she's looking at things. And finally, the doctor comes in and he tells us, your daughter is in last stage heart failure. Like, we have got to transfer her to OSU in Columbus, Ohio. OSU is absolutely one of the best heart hospitals in the state. And when he said that, my husband fainted. I mean, he fell to the floor. He was out. And my daughter was hysterically crying. And I'm standing here in the middle of the room, and I just feel like tunnel vision. Like, I felt like everything was closing in on me in that moment, because my husband's on the floor, my daughter is crying. Who do I even go to console? So that moment was like a defining, people say like they have defining moments in their lives. That was it for me, that I thought, like, my daughter is forever going to be changed by this. Our family is forever going to be changed by this. This is not something that can just be fixed with rehab. This is so much deeper and so much more complex than I ever expected. And her life is never going to be the same. And you have to understand, when you watch your child go through addiction, it's like every dream you ever had for them dies in that time. Every When we look at our children when they're little, we want the world for them. And we think my child could grow up and they can be, they could be a doctor, they could be a lawyer, they could, be in sports, anything. The world is their oyster. And when your child is addicted, like my daughter was, like, those dreams died. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, that was 2 years of watching her just become something I didn't even recognize, someone I didn't recognize.
So you were told in the hospital at that time what your mother-in-law had already seen by looking at what was happening with her machines that she was hooked up to.
Yes.
She already knew that her heart wasn't looking good. And then to be told that she's in final stages. So literally, when you hear the words rock bottom, that is where this family is right now. They are literally at rock bottom. So after you get that news, that diagnosis, that news, and you're spiraling at this point, what hope were you given in that time?
In that moment, we weren't given a lot. because they were a smaller hospital and that was not their specialty. And I have to back up a little bit because I could tell that she was declining so quick. And I remember going to work one day and I just had this foreboding feeling. And I looked at my boss and I just bust out crying and I said, I just have this overwhelming feeling that my daughter's going to die. I feel like she's going to die. And that day was such a hard day for me, because I think instinctually as a mom, I knew that something was really wrong, and I couldn't do anything about it. I felt so powerless because as parents, we want to fix everything, we want to get in there and make
We would
everything
take
better
it
for our
on for our
children
kids. We would take what they're dealing with on. Yep.
any day of the week. And
Yep.
I told you that I prayed for a lot of things when she was in the midst of her addiction. I prayed for her to not overdose and die. I prayed for her not to be unalive during a deal gone bad. I prayed for her not to get a disease or something that she would have to live with long after the addiction was through. And God answered all three of those prayers. He did, because I didn't know that there was something else I needed to pray about. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't even know that it could affect her heart like that she would end up in the shape that she was in. So once they transferred her to the hospital, I mean, it was bleak. They're saying, like one more week and she would not have made it. She would not be here because her heart. So what essentially happened was, she ruined her mitral valve. Um, and so she needed to have open heart surgery to replace that valve. It was totally gone, totally was not working anymore. And so that's why her legs were swelling. She had all this fluid on her body because her heart wasn't pumping right. So it wasn't doing its job. And so at this time, you know, they do an MRI and they find that aneurysm on her brain that I told you that she had had. And so she had to spend about a month and a half before her open heart surgery getting IV antibiotics to try to heal that aneurysm because she wasn't in good enough shape to have the open heart surgery because they were afraid that, she wouldn't make it through the surgery because of all the issues she had going on. So she spent a month and a half on IV antibiotics. They got the aneurysm, healed up as much as they could. But in this time, her body, even though she was taking medicines to try to get rid of the water, her body was just swelling. I mean, it was swelling at such a rapid rate. I think she gained like 60 pounds of swelling in that time. So at one point they just said, you know what, we have to do this. Like, we can't wait any longer. And I remember the day that she had her open heart surgery, the waiting room was so full of our family and friends. And I remember the doctors and the nurses being like, wow, like you really have a lot of people who care about you.
Well, they don't expect somebody who has an addiction to have that kind of support,
No,
right?
because people, there's this stigma
Yeah.
with people who are addicted that, it's their choice. Oh, they choose to do this. I promise you, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'd like to become addicted to heroin or to meth today. And I think I'd like to ruin my whole life and my health and lose everything I have and disappoint my whole family and my future. I promise you, nobody says that and nobody's thinking that. Um, so yes, she had a lot of family and friends on that day, and she made it through the surgery. And I'm in like mom survival protect mode this whole time. I'm going to work, which is over an hour from the hospital. I'm getting off work. I'm driving back to the hospital. I'm staying the night with her. I'm getting up very early in the morning, getting ready, driving back to work. I mean, I went from work, hospital, work, hospital. That was my life. Um, and I stayed in that, like I'm in the fight or flight mode, but I'm in fight. I'm not in flight. I am in fight mode. So, and this continued, she made it through the surgery. Um, and then she had some complications after, so it was kind of rough right off the block, but she came through everything okay.
What did they do for her heart? What did they put in?
So they put in a mechanical heart valve. And so there's two types of valves that you can get. You can get a mechanical valve, which is metal, and it's going to last a lot longer, or you can get a pig valve, which is actually taken from a pig. But with her age, they estimated that she would have to have it replaced every 5 to 10 years. So she decided to go with the mechanical heart valve, which came with its own complications because there's a very big chance of like blood clotting. So you have to be on a medicine called Coumadin, or that's what she takes, Coumadin, for the rest of her life. As long as she has this mechanical valve, she has to be on that medication to keep her blood thin enough that she doesn't get a clot in that valve. And so, I mean, it took when she came home from the hospital, it was every day getting her INR checked. It was every day making sure her blood was thin enough, but not too thin. And that, for the first year, it was a healing process. It was,
So she's no longer, at this point, she's no longer taking anything.
no,
She's not on anything. Okay.
because you have to think from the time she went to rehab until she came home from the hospital was about 2.5 months. So she had that much time to get off. You know what I mean? To be like
To detox, to do the whole thing, yeah.
in rehab, she got detoxed and she was over that hump before she went to the hospital. Um, and so, they told her before she had the surgery, and this is a very harsh reality, but one that she needed to hear. The heart surgeon looked at her and said, I'm going to do this for you, but if you get back on drugs and you ruin this valve, I won't do it for you again. Like, this is your second chance at life. Please take this and run with it and start your life all over. And that's what she's done. I have to tell you, even though she's different in many ways, she's not a normal 25-year-old. She has health issues, and, even getting pregnant was a process that she had to consult with a doctor with because, you can't take Coumadin when you're pregnant. You have to give yourself shots in the stomach of a different kind of medicine for the whole pregnancy.
It's a blood thinner, right? That's what she has to be on, is a blood thinner. Yeah.
It's a blood thinner. And so, the healing process was a long process, and just getting her life back together was a long process, and her learning, because let me tell you, when she was in the hospital, not one of those drug friends that she had, not one of those people that she was around came to see her. She meant nothing to them anymore. And so that was a very hard lesson for her to learn. I think in the process was like, wow, those were not my friends. They didn't care about me whatsoever. So, she had to, down to the most minute, like she had to find new friends after, she was healed and ready to start her life again. She had to find a new group of friends and get back into the workforce and learn to deal with everyday issues and stressors in life without leaning on
Anything.
anything.
Right. You can't even, because I joke, and I need to like really be mindful of it, but I joke that I believe in bottle therapy. If you're going through a rough night, just have a glass of wine, everything kind of copes it. But the truth of the matter is that's not an option for somebody who's been down this route. That is not an option for somebody who has been so deep into the addiction, because what happens is there's going to something replaces that. Everybody always says something replaces that. So she is now actually going to school to learn how to help others,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and that was something that she was very passionate about. Like, Mom, this is something I want to do because I really feel like I can make a difference and I can relate to these people in a way that other people were not able to relate to me because I have been there, done that. I know what they're thinking, I know how they're feeling. So,
But here's somebody in the comments says, "Thank you for sharing the story. It's encouraging to hear, and there's hope for a family friend that's struggling." But remember, rock bottom was hit, and that's typically what somebody has to hit before they get the help that they need. And it's unfortunate and the hardest thing to watch. It's the hardest thing to watch. So your daughter is now a mom.
she is now a mom, and that was her little girl that you guys maybe saw for a second earlier. And she's in a committed relationship with her boyfriend, and she works and she's going to school, and she's my daughter again. That was the one thing that I prayed for probably most, was like, I just wanted my daughter back. I wanted, the little girl that was so full of life and joyful, and she was one of those kids, man. She could just light up the room. She was so charismatic and so bubbly and joyful. And that was, as a mom, when you that die that when that child is gone, it's devastating. It is devastating.
So
So
we
I
talked
have my,
about
my baby back.
we talked about your daughter
Yes.
and the rock bottom that she hit, the health complications that happened, the help that she got, the reality that was put in her face, that the doctor said, this is your one chance. This is your one chance to start over. No drugs. You ruin this valve, I'm not putting another one in. This is it. This is your one chance. So, watching all of that, as we said earlier, it affects the entire family. You want to dive into, while she's going through her stuff, what that did to you?
So, like I said, I was in fight mode, and I stayed in that mode for a very long time through her addiction, through her recovery. But the thing about trauma is that at some point it's going to affect your mental health and it's going to come out. So in April of 20 or March of 2023, my son came to me and said, or he called me on the phone and he said, I'm on my way home with my recruiter. And I was like, you're what? And he was like, yeah, my recruiter. He said, I'm going to join the Marines. And I was like, what? And so he ended up joining the Marine Corps, which as a mom, I am on this fine line of so proud, but so scared. Because I'm going to tell you, when it's your child, we can look at people in the military and think, oh, we're proud of them. Those are great people. But until you are that mom, you don't think about all the little things that means, all the big things that means. And so when he left, I had this constant loop of all the worst things that you can think about, the terrible scenarios you can come up with will be in a loop in your brain. So coupled with, so I had that, and all the stress and trauma that I had been through the last 3 years, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And for about 3 months, my mental health was in such bad shape because I couldn't function. I didn't know what to do with myself. I cried all the time. I got through my work days, but it was very hard. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't care about anything. I didn't craft. I didn't make a wreath. Um, my mind was in such shambles, and and that's the truth. That I just thought it was the only time in my life I ever had the thought like, I understand now why some people think about unaliving themselves, even though I wasn't thinking that I was going to do that. But my brain was in such a bad place that I could understand how people got to that point. And so I had to go to my doctor and say, crying the whole time, I'm not okay right now. And I don't know how to be okay. I cannot, because when you are a control freak and you can't control your own mind and your feelings, that's a very hard place to be.
It's scary. It's legitimately scary.
It's a scary place to be. Um, and my mom, bless her heart, like she could see me drowning, like, and she was such a support for me at that time. And so my doctor was like, he took one look at me and he was like, oh, we have got to help. Like, we gotta do something. We gotta fix you. And so I had to get on medication. And it took about 3 months for it to really kick in and really, start helping, like in a really positive, good way. Um, I am still on that, and I say I'm happily medicated. I'm happily medicated. Um, and
Because
if
it helped you, because it legitimately helped you. Yeah.
Yes, and I remember telling my doctor, like, I don't want to be on medication. I am stronger than this. I know I am. And
There's
he
no
said,
shame in it, girlfriend. No
yes,
shame.
he said to me, you have to think of it this way. If you had high blood pressure, you would have to be on medication. There's no choice. He said, this is the same thing. Your mental health is just as important. And if you need medicine, you need medicine because you can't continue like this. I had lost like 10 pounds and I'm already a thin person. I've been thin all my life.
Right,
It's genetic.
right.
And I mean, I look terrible. I'm still trying to gain back the weight that I lost during that time because, you know, stress is an ongoing thing and trauma is an ongoing thing. And,
Well,
so
that's the thing. So you were basically still in fight mode. And
yes,
when you're in fight mode, you can still function. It may not be in the healthiest of ways, but you can function. What she's talking about is her son leaving, doing this very hard, brave, wonderful thing. That's what pushed her over the edge. That's what took that fight, and basically she felt defeated and depression took over.
right. Because, and I also, I have to say that, empty nest syndrome. I mean, when he left, I came home and the house was quiet. There were no kids in and out the door and, like, mom, what's for dinner? So it was time that I had to kind of face everything that I had been through. And like I said, when trauma hits you, you never know when it's going to happen. But when it does, it lets itself be known. And that's kind of what happened, you know. And I remember when I went to see him when he graduated from basic training. And you have to remember I had lost a lot of weight. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, he said, are you okay? And that was also a very hard moment for me because I never wanted him to see, you know, the effects of what had been happening since he left. In my letters to him, I never led on that anything was wrong, but he took one look at me and was like, Mom, like, what is happening? What is wrong? So,
Well, here, let me ask this, and I know several people in the chat have adult children. It's
yes,
something that's not talked about a lot is what happens when you do hit empty nest, when the house does get quiet. And for several of us, I'm going to cry. For several of us, it's devastating. Not because we want to hold our kids back. That's not it. It's because we are so involved in our families and our house is loud and things are happening at a consistent, like you know what to expect. You're running around, you're doing everything, and it quite literally stops.
yes.
And the silence is deafening.
It's the silence that gets you. I promise you. It's yeah, I heard people talk about it, but I never realized how hard it would be because I love my children so much that, you know, like your heartstrings are so connected. That's how I put it.
Yeah.
And, when those strings are not connected anymore in a way that where I was seeing him every day, it was very, very,
And
very
and
difficult.
here's the other side of that too. Like, you know that you want to raise your kids to be functioning adults in
Oh,
society. That
absolutely
has
not.
nothing to do with it. It's
No.
you don't get, there's no preparation. Like they have, like what is it, the kindergarten boohoo breakfast for moms when you're dropping them off at kindergarten.
Yeah.
Can somebody like really, really sit with us, like when the other thing happens, when they're out of the house and they're no longer, here, like that we see them every day, because the thing that saved me, the thing that saved me is my business. That is literally what saved me because I wasn't hyper focused. Like I didn't consume my child. Like I understand why some children are like no contact with parents as soon as they leave the house
Right.
because we're desperate. Like the desperation is real. It is not even something that we realize we're doing or that we want to do. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that, but it's there. And
Yeah.
then our husbands are looking at us like, I'm struggling too, but not like that. And I'm like, it's different. We are the nurturers. It's a different relationship.
Yes.
So I get it. I understand it. I've lived it. But I'm so grateful that I found this to take over all of that feeling, right?
Yes. Yes. And I do have to reiterate, I am so proud of my son. I want him to be an independent, functioning adult who can make his own choices, which he can. He's a great kid. He's so kind. Both of my kids are great kids. My daughter is so kind. And I have to tell you that my daughter, through I call it an almost mental break.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie. She was my biggest cheerleader and my support. And she every day was trying to help me, even if it was on the phone, talk to me. So I say, like, I was her biggest cheerleader, at one time, and she was mine. I mean, her and my husband are really the only probably reasons came out of it as well as I did. Um,
So
and
you're on the other side of it, right? You're
yeah,
on the other side of it. And a lot of what you actually do on a day-to-day basis is you help families through
yes,
their hard things, through their difficult times. And that's something to be admired for because when you take something that you've gone through, that you've survived, because that's the best way that I can put it. It's redemptive, you've survived. You're not saying it's perfect, but it's a work in progress and it's progressing in the right direction.
yes,
Okay. So when you can do that for other people, which is why we felt this story was so important to be shared. And it's why Kim said, I have a story and I feel that this is the right place to share it. Now you know some of her background. So kindness. Let's talk about kindness and how important it is when you're assuming things about a person based on the little bit that you see on this tiny screen. You don't know anything that's happening in the background, how important it is to be kind. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Um, yes, and I think I said this before. You know, watch what you don't when you say something cruel like, oh, like, well, those drug addicts, they choose to do it. It's their own fault. You don't know who you're speaking in front of because I had somebody say that, somebody I worked with who said that in the company of, about 10 people. And I thought, you have no idea who you're saying that in front of because
It's somebody's child.
that is somebody's child. And I went through it. I'm like, you're talking to me? But they were new, they didn't know my story. And I also have to say, while we were going through this, I did not post it on Facebook. I wasn't on Facebook going, oh, here's what we're going through as a family. We kept it very within our family. um
Well, it's vulnerable. It's extremely vulnerable.
so vulnerable because people have the most hurtful um things to say.
They're
Like,
almost flippant. It's almost like a flippant, um, like a what do you call it? A stigmatism, like
the
help
stigma,
me.
yes, there's
Yeah,
such a stigma with,
yeah,
but it's such an epidemic.
it
And I
is.
have to touch on that for just a minute
Mhm.
because it's not just something you hear about every once in a while. Drug addiction is such an epidemic right now. The drug industry in this country is higher and more extreme than it has ever been. And so this is affecting doctors, lawyers, teachers, actors, politicians, singers. It is not just a poor person or, trashy person thing anymore. This is affecting everybody. So that's my PSA. I just have to say, when you don't know personally how something is, don't make mean comments about it.
Well,
You know,
here's the other thing, like Angela just said, because we know Angela's story. They don't consider addiction a disease, right? So the thing is you can speak out of a very ignorant place by blanket, like a blanket comment that can really devastate and deeper hurt, like add deeper wounds to an already hurting situation. So I don't blame you for not sharing it. I don't blame you for keeping it close to your family, to your heart, because when you're going through it, the last thing you need is for somebody to make a remark. It doesn't matter the intention. It never matters the intention. I didn't intend to hurt them. I didn't know. Well, if you don't know, don't talk. Don't say anything.
exactly. So back to kindness.
Yeah.
I in my job I help families because first of all, I'm a teacher. It's in my blood. But secondly, I can relate to what these families are going through. And the last thing they need is somebody coming into their home passing judgment. You know,
Exactly.
I am there to help them. So I'm going to be as kind and as empathetic as I can and, get them the resources that they need, educate their children, whatever it is that I'm there for because, and we unfortunately over the years we do deal with parents who are addicted to drugs themselves. And so I want them to feel comfortable with me so that, I can help them the best way I know how. And nobody wants you walking into their house with a look of judgment on your face. That's not what they need. They need somebody who can, sympathize with them and to be professional and do a job. But, kindness is something that is so lacking, I feel like.
I don't think people know how to be kind. I
So
think that
lacking.
because we lack it so much that we don't truly understand what kind is. Sometimes kind means not saying what you think.
Exactly. If you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all.
Yep.
Um, so I don't know. I just think we just need more. We just need more kindness in the world. We need more kind people. We need,
More helpers. We
yes.
need more helpers.
And I think,
We need to see a need and fill a need. Go ahead and take your drink. I have a few things I can fill this time
I'm
with. You're
in my
fine.
craft room, so like
It's the burlap.
it's the burlap. Oh,
It's the burlap. It's the burlap tickle. But here's the thing. There's a movie called Robots. I'm a huge fan of this movie called Robots. And if you haven't seen it, I'm a huge fan of the character Aunt Fanny. She cracks me up. She's a huge giggle. But there's a term that they use in that movie that says, see a need, fill a need, right? And that really stuck with me. I'm like, what a great way to think of things. Like, if there's a need and you know you can fill it and you have the time and effort it takes to fill that need, fill that need. Fill that need. Because somebody's going to need what you have, so give it to them. It really is just being human. We are all gifted different ways. We all have different gifts. Okay. So if you can see somebody who's struggling with whatever, fill in the blank, you don't even have to know what they're struggling with, and you can fill that need. If somebody's hungry, feed them.
yes.
Somebody's hungry, feed them. It doesn't matter. I don't care what they do or what they've done or how they look or how they smell. It's a human being. They are human. Okay. Human. You see somebody hungry, you feed them. You feed them, period. All the rest of the stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you see somebody grumpy, you smile at them. You
Right?
tell them it's okay. Whatever it is that they're going through, it's okay. It really is okay. Don't don't be that person that adds to somebody else's hurt.
And I guess I will never understand that because it makes me feel so good to make somebody else feel good in any way that I can. Even by just saying like, I like your shirt. Hey, I like your hair today. So I don't understand people who feel good when they make others feel bad. Do you know what I mean? Like I that is so foreign to me and I
It's a
just
next level of brokenness in that person. It's a next level of brokenness. They don't understand, and it's a reaction. They're getting a reaction no matter what the reaction is, they're getting a reaction. Think about kids. Just think about children that will do things for shock factor, or the easiest attention to get is the negative attention.
yes.
Typically, if you have a child acting out, all they want is your attention
And they will get it
any
any
way
way
they
they can.
can. But
Even
it's the
as a
same
parent.
thing. We're all human. We're all human.
Right.
And I vote kindness for president. I vote feeding the hungry for president. This is an election year, face it, okay? I vote we don't judge anybody for anything anymore. We don't do it anymore. We just don't. We keep ourselves accountable to it. The next time that judgment thought comes into your head about anything, you can capture that thought and tell it to go away and flip it and be like, you need to stop that. That is not okay. That is not okay.
And I think, before the whole situation with my daughter, I didn't understand drug addiction.
Yep.
And I probably wasn't the most sympathetic.
Yep.
Um, and not intentional, but I
Nope.
just didn't understand it.
Yep.
Um, so I think God, we go through things to show us other things. You know what I mean? Like I'm not angry about it. I'm not forever resentful that, our family had to go through that. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. And
But it
I,
also taught you about being human, like
yeah,
literally being human.
yes. And
You
that
know, your
nobody,
daughter didn't come to you and share what she was doing because she's human. And
yeah,
she wasn't proud of what she was doing. She just didn't know how to stop what she was doing.
exactly. Yeah. We hide what we are most ashamed of, So, um, everything in life, there's a lesson out of it, and how you choose to take that lesson and go forward is up to you. But I took that, and I'm my eyes are so much more open to things now
Well,
because
you radiate kindness, my friend, just so you know.
oh, thank you.
You do. You radiate kindness. Anybody that's ever watched Kim or had a conversation with Kim, she is so super kind, always has a good thing to say, always makes you feel good in her presence. So if you don't already follow Kim, please follow her. Support her when she goes live. Even if you're another creator and you may not buy something from her, your support means the world. So if you're not following
Absolutely.
Kim of Kimber-Lee Designs, please follow her.
Everyone is welcome. I get excited when anybody comes into my life. I don't care who it is. I'm like, yay, somebody's here. Um, so
Well,
yeah,
there's a recommendation in the chat from our friend Angela from Barrel of Reese. She shared that everyone should read Matthew Perry's book. He shed some light, such a light on addiction, because we all know his story now that he is passed, and we've all heard his story. And I agree that the more knowledge, ooh, the more knowledge we have about the things that people are struggling with and going through, um, the more kind we can be, because we don't know. We just don't know what people are going through. And the things that people that are desperate to not hurt anymore do is not the answer. It's just not the answer. So we want to love on people, and we want to love on people well, which is why we go live. We want to bring some people some joy with some pretty things
exactly.
and share what basically has saved us in our empty nesthood.
Absolutely. The emptiness, oh, the struggle is real, people. Um,
All you have to do is click on her side of the screen, and she'll pop up, and you can just hit follow on her. Um, but yeah, she is absolutely wonderful, and as you can tell, the designs behind her, she's quite talented too. So, but we appreciate you guys joining us, and if you have absolutely any questions for Kim, this is the time to ask. So here's a silly question, okay? Um, you're a grandmother now,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Has she given you your grandmother name, or have you picked one for yourself?
Oh, okay, control freak, remember? I absolutely picked my own name.
Yep.
I am Mimi.
Okay.
I said I am too young to be granny or grandma, even though I'm not. I'm old. I know that. But I was like, you can't, no, she can't call me grandma. Sorry.
That is so funny. Have you gotten the t-shirt yet?
Yes, I have one that says greatest Mimi ever.
There you go.
My
See, these
daughter
are
got
things that
one.
are important to know about our friend.
Yes.
Let me ask you another question.
Uh-huh.
As far as working with wreaths and mesh and all of that stuff, have you found what your favorite thing to work with is?
Um, what do you mean? Like, I love evergreen. Do you mean like,
Like what's your favorite thing to use? Like you're gonna use this every single time because you love it.
oh, florals?
Yep. I knew that already because you've said it. She's like, I'm
Oh,
going to put flowers in my wreath. You're just going to have to deal with the fact that I love flowers and they're going in my wreath.
yes. Yes. They just make everything prettier.
Well, the thing is, and it's perfect because we're in spring.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
everything is blooming in spring. All right, so because we are fellow control freaks or recovering. I call myself a recovering control freak and a recovering people pleaser. That's what I've basically deemed myself because I've decided I can't please everybody and it's exhausting. So it can't happen.
That comes with age. That people pleasing part of us, like the
I
older
turned
you get,
50 and I was done with it. I turned 50 and I'm like, okay, I'm done.
the more you're like, I don't want to please everybody. Like,
It's impossible. The
I
thing
can't,
is, why did it take me so long to realize it's not possible?
right? If we only knew that when we were 20, because you can't live your life to the fullest when you're trying to please everybody else and do for everybody else. You're kind of stuck in this cycle of just, do. And
Yeah,
self-care is huge. Like you
it
have to
is.
take care of yourself,
It
whether
is.
that's just getting your nails done or going and sitting outside and reading a book, whatever it is. Like you have to love yourself enough uh, to value yourself.
Do you like to travel?
I do. I like to travel. I don't necessarily like being on an airplane. I do it, but it's not something I enjoy. But yes, I like to travel.
So your preferred way of traveling is what?
Um, it would be car, but an airplane does cut down a lot of time. So, if it's far away, like Vegas or somewhere like that, you gotta take an airplane.
You gotta take a plane to Vegas.
Let's go to Vegas. Yeah,
You
Vegas is
gotta
a good
take a
time.
plane to Vegas. You know
Yeah.
what I wish? I wish that riding a train was a lot easier to places because I think I would enjoy hopping on a train
Me too.
and just seeing the countryside and you know what I mean and not have to actually be in a car but like be able to walk from one car to another or sleep laying down or I picture I tend to romanticize travel and I'm
Yes.
like would it be comfortable to lay down in one of the sleeping cars and just snooze while we go through the countryside all those kind of things and Anne just gave us an open invitation to visit her in Vegas.
Ah, I love Vegas.
All of a sudden we all pull in and we're like hey we're here.
We're here. I'm with you on the train thing though. Like you could read,
That's what I imagine. I romanticize it. It might be awful, but I
yeah, because I've never
romanticize the
done it.
heck out of it. Like going
Never done it.
on a Greyhound bus, that to me doesn't seem as luxurious as a train would be.
No, it feels cramped and smelly.
So would you ever go on a cruise?
Yes, a cruise is on my bucket list.
You
I've
haven't
not
been on one yet?
I've not been on one yet, but
Okay.
I would absolutely go on a cruise.
Now Martha wants us to have a wreath makers meeting in Vegas.
I could
All of a
I could
sudden
love
Anne's like,
that.
I invited Kim and Claudia. I did not invite all y'all. I'm just kidding. Everybody's welcome. You guys know that. I'm all
Everybody's
about I
welcome.
I'm an extrovert if you didn't know. And my friend Kim is more of an introvert, which is why she hung out up in the little number person up in the corner. That's why she hung out up there and didn't like chat it up. But like I'm a puppy, like with wagging the tail and everything. New people, new people. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? Hi. And she's like, "Hey, I need to stand over here for a minute. You need to give me a minute to get a feel for you."
That's my that's just my nature though. I like to watch and learn. Do you know what I mean? Like I like to read when I walk into a room, I don't want to be the center of attention. I want to read the room and see what I'm dealing with. Is it just anybody else like that? Like you walk into a room, I'm like, I'm going to observe and see like
Go ahead and put hearts in the chat if you're like Kim, that you like to get a feel for the room when you walk in. You just like to get a feel for it. Um, yeah. So, Kevin says that when I walk into a room, I kind of demand attention. Can you see that happening?
Yes.
And it's not because I want to run around and I walk in and I say, look at me, I demand attention. It's because I look at people and I smile and I say hello and I ask their name and I want to know everything about them. And it's very confusing to me when my husband shares with me that he spends an entire day working alongside another individual, which happened to be a guy at this point, working on like a Habitat for Humanity, like volunteer project, and only knows the guy's name. That's it. 8 hours. 8 hours. 8 hours you were next to this person and all you know is their name.
That's
I
amazing.
would know I would
Right?
know everything. I would know everything about this human being. But yes, a lot of people are with you. They're perfectly fine with reading a room, hanging out in the back.
I'm suspicious by nature. So I
Katniss
never
says I
see
used to be a hey, look at me now. I'm a hey, why are you looking at me?
exactly. Why is that person looking at me like that?
See, and Martha makes friends while buying groceries.
Yeah.
Kim, thank you so much. There's no words that can really emulate what I feel right now as far as how important it is that we shared this story today. And I thank your family for being so willing and okay with doing that because it sheds light. It sheds huge light that you don't know. By looking at Kim, you would never know what she's been through. We don't wear our stories.
Mm.
We don't wear our stories. So if anything you can take out of this is there is hope. There is hope, and kindness will get you so much more than any of those, that ugliness, that judgmental, that hatred that we see, and you can't change people. Let me just share this. It's not your job to change somebody. It's not your job to change somebody. The only way to combat that type of, coming at you hate is to be kind, to be quiet, to listen, to literally be quiet and listen and let them do whatever and then just tell them you're sorry. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm sorry you feel that way because that's all it takes. You don't need to work yourself up or argue with somebody that's already up here. It's not beneficial.
Right. And can I
I
just,
mean, like I said, go ahead.
I just want to say this one more time that there is life after addiction. Never give up hope for somebody that you love who may be addicted to drugs right now. Never ever lose hope because it is so possible, and life can be so great after recovery. So
Yeah. Yeah, and just know that there are resources. There are several resources out there for families. There's just a lot more out there today than there ever has been in the past because there is such an epidemic. But if you yourself are struggling, you're in a dark place, you don't, this is what you do, to pass the time, to not feel numb. You log into TikTok and just scroll through. Just know that there's people on the other end of that screen that are rooting for you. They want the best for you. We don't want you feeling the way that you do. And if you can reach out and connect with anybody, please do. Please do, because it doesn't have to be the way it is right now for you. It just doesn't. So there's so much love coming from Kim and I. We absolutely love this TikTok community. We're
Yes.
grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me, Claudia, and thank you to everybody who spent this 2 hours with us that went by so fast.
Isn't it
And
crazy?
yeah, I'm like, oh my goodness. Thank you all for your compassion and all the hearts and for hearing my story. I'm so grateful that I have this community. It has helped me through a lot. So much love to everyone.
Have a good Saturday. And remember, follow Kim if you don't. All right. And we'll see you around TikTok, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.